Oh my gosh, I think the button has happened, everybody. And I need and I pushed the exact wrong thing that I needed to. Hello! Welcome everyone. The Indie Council is in session. This is a place for the leading voices from across the industry to gather to talk news, titles, and everything indie. I'm your master of ceremonies, Jill Grote, the Indie Informer, and today we are joined by basking in the World Series win, Janet Garcia.
Hello. I'm so glad that we don't call it like the industry or whatever on this show. I think that was really big of us.
Is that like a subtle, like maybe we should start saying that?
No,
Or
definitely not. I think this industry needs less puns. I think we
okay.
take them too far usually.
We
And yeah,
we
shout out to the
are
Dodgers. The
yeah.
players, the organization itself, there's some problems, but yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Good time to be in LA. Good time to enjoy
Yeah. Yeah, it's going all
that.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Also, getting ready for a snack in December. It's Jenny Wyndham.
Yay, hello. Yeah, 'tis showcase prep season. So it's very exciting.
It's
Very
wild how much is going on right now.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's a busy time, but I'm super excited.
yeah. We're going to talk about that a little bit, spoilers for the topic of the show, but before we get there, let's talk about indie news. I wish I had like a fun button I could push that just like da 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 news, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work on that. I'll tell Mike to work on that. Speaking of Mike, 6-1 Indie Publishing announces its first game. They are going to be publishing Blue Ridge Hunting, an online co-op horror cryptid hunting adventure. You can play the demo right now. It is up on Kickstarter. Let me show everybody what this game is all about here with the share screen. I am share. Boop. There we go. It is very on brand for 6-1 Indie, I think. I don't think any of us are surprised by this particular choice by them. It is essentially, it's kind of like a phasmophobia, but you are in the middle of the like Appalachian Mountains and you are trying to capture evidence of or capture the thing itself, some sort of cryptid thing. So like a Mothman or a Bigfoot or something like that. And it is multiplayer. So you get all these people together. You start out in the back of the bar is your like central location. You drive out into the woods and then you have like this large open area. So instead of like just having, oh, it's just this tiny little house with some rooms in it, you actually have like a swath of wilderness to go through and check out. If you didn't see it, uh, kind of funny, actually did an entire stream of this game, which was a lot of fun to play, and they were not great. I think they were a little too excited about trying to kill the creature rather than just get the evidence and bring it back
No.
and gain money.
Mm,
So every time they went out, they'd be like, we're shooting it, and it would kill them, and then come back and be like, no, we'll restart. But it seemed like a really fun time for everybody. So I think you can go check it out. Let me see. There's a demo down here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
there's demo all set, ready to go. You can go check that out and you can play it with friends right now. It has no official release date, but we're going to be keeping an eye on that. And hopefully Mike will give us a few behind the scenes details as soon as he can. But y'all, are you excited? Were you able to see what was going on with this?
I saw it on social, like, hit my feeds and things like that. Unsurprisingly, right? I'm not a big like online co-op person just in general. But I like the idea of I'm a big fan of having stuff that is scary but sort of lightly diffused. And this feels like that level where it's like it's horror, but it's not going to be it doesn't seem like it will be, rip your face off levels of like scary kind of thing.
Yeah.
Seems like a little bit more chill than that. And my flavor of like online stuff is on the PvE level. I'm not really like a competitive games person for the most part. There are some exceptions, but not many. So yeah, it's cool to, see. And then we'll see how this continues. I mean, obviously like, well, I imagine we'll kind of keep it on the more announcements front. You know, obviously like Mike's on the show, so like there is a little bit of that like crossover with those things. But even that aside, it's fun to see when a publisher hits the scene, like what's going to be the flavor of publishing, right? So and how will that kind of take shape? And I think that's still, you know, intriguing and exciting for Mike and his team to undertake. So, you know, I wish them the best with all their stuff, and shout out to the games that can get published, because obviously publishing help or just publishing in general is a big challenge in the indie scene for a lot of developers. So
Yep.
more publishers are always better in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think I also am not really an online like multiplayer person. I like single player games. I'm just that kind of a person.
Yeah.
I
We're all
appreciate
going to
that.
be dragged out by Mike into the backwoods to
Yeah,
like
no, I'll
shoot down
definitely
I
be
think you'll be
playing.
dragged out into the woods. You're
No.
kind of, but you're ready for this stuff because you played like you know, kaiju cooking horror simulator. That's not the name of the game, but it's close
Yeah.
enough. Like
It's close.
like you're down to clown, as they say. So I feel
am,
like you don't have
yeah.
to be dragged. I think you're the person doing the dragging.
Yeah, no, I will
Yeah.
help Mike kidnap both of you.
But I did want to highlight, because on the Kickstarter page, it does say that there's like a story mode. So for folks who also are like, I'm not into playing with other people, I like the story stuff a little bit more. There's a story mode, so that really intrigues me. And it says it takes inspiration from games like Silent Hill 2 and Firewatch, and it's about Appalachian folklore. So that part for me is what I'm most intrigued by, and I have been getting into horror games, so I think I'll be looking forward to trying out the demo, probably this weekend, honestly.
Yeah. Also, can we just talk about the fact that uh Mike, every single time he comes on here, is talking about how much work he's got. Look at him, he's showing up right there. He'd be talking about how much stress he's going through, how much he's doing, and how much he needs to cut back on everything. And then the next day he'll be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing this wild new project." And it's something like um we've started a publishing label. I'm just like, why, Mike? How do you do this to yourself?
He likes it
Yeah,
because it's
I
his
think
brand
so.
of sickness. But
Mhm.
I love you, Mike, and I'm there for you, and when in any way that you need it.
Yeah, we love you, Mike. We hope you don't get eaten by a monster in the woods.
Mhm.
Speaking of monsters in the woods, I don't know if that's a segue that works here. We have a delay, a very interesting delay to talk about today. Um, Unbeatable was set to release November 6th, which is when hopefully most of you are watching this. And just the day before, there was a very sudden um delay statement. And I want to read this because I didn't find it on socials. It literally went onto Steam and I found it via like other sources. So it seems like it was a very last minute thing, but I'm going to read through what is happening here. And for everybody who doesn't know Unbeatable right off the title, it is the very beautiful anime hand drawn game about like music and music being outlawed and fighting back, which was supposed to come out tomorrow.
Yeah,
It
and it's
says.
been featured in really quick, like kind of some of the big Keeley things. Like I think it maybe got a
Mhm.
trailer at Gamescom during like the pre-show
Mhm.
or maybe the show proper. So even if you're not like obsessively locked in on indies, there's a good chance that you saw this if you just kind of follow mainstream game showcases. But yeah, go ahead, Jill.
Actually, I will show the game itself.
It also had a demo during Next Fest, which is true for a lot of games, but I definitely think it got a little bit of an extra conversation off of that. I know that was one of the times that I had played it for the first time was during like either during a Next Fest or doing that during that thing that I made where I did my Next Fest in the sky. If I if we're calling that Sky Fest or whatever, where I go on a plane and I play a bunch of demos. This was one of
love it.
so in my personal Next Fest, this was definitely featured. And I think the regular one also at some point, but
Okay, so we've got a look at it right there while I read what the statement is here. It says, "Hi, Unbeatable was supposed to come out tomorrow. That's a scary sentence. Here's a worse one. First of all, as a writer, Love that opening. Very catching. Unbeatable will now release on December 9th. I hate that I have to say this. There's no way to apologize for it. There's no way to apologize for it that feels like enough. I'm personally sorry about this and wish it was different. And then they do a series of like questions and answers. So, question, why would you only tell me now? Because the decision was only made a few hours ago. No, really. I'm writing this right after the meeting where the decision was made. We are telling you this as soon as we possibly can. But why? The game's done, right? There's a very boring and frustrating reason. QA hit a low repro
Yeah,
progression?
repro. Yeah.
Jenny with her lingo. Blocker last night that's serious enough it's considered unreleasable. Fixing this would require pushing the console release date back because of cert timelines. And not fixing this is, well, we refuse to do that. We're fixing it. But why not just delay the release of the console port? That's very messy. We'd rather release the game all at once for everybody. But why release on December 9th? That's a whole month away. Another boring reason you can figure out pretty quickly by Googling the phrase 2025 game release calendar. And if you do, hopefully you're looking at the Indian Farmer.
It's really funny.
And looking at what's hitting this month, we had a pretty good spot on November 6th where we made a small little island for ourselves. And skipping that date necessarily means skipping forward a lot to find another island. And that's the closest one we had. On the plus side, it gives us breathing room we didn't have before to do some pre-launch things we wanted to do that had to get pushed back because of finishing the game in time for, well, tomorrow. But is the game good? It's very good, and I'm very biased. We'll see what reviewers think, but for those of you waiting the longest for this thing to come out, it makes me feel a bit crazy knowing how much you still don't know about what this thing is. I'm very excited about it. I wish it could have been tomorrow, but thank you to everyone who's rooted for us up to this point. It's not much longer now. RJ Lake and everyone at D-Cell Games and PlayStack. And that is it.
A quick clarifying question. I'm guessing it means like low like not that
It's hard to
reproducible. But
reproduce.
can you like clarify that, Jenny?
Yeah, it's like basically they have a bug that has been rare, hard to find, and reproduce, but it blocks progression. So like that's kind of a poetry because it sounds a little bit like the game is now unbeatable if you encounter this bug. And so there's a little bit of nice, like, I don't know, it's poetry. But the game Unbeatable is unbeatable because of this bug. And yeah, they made the call to, instead of release it on just PC and then console separately, I wonder, because sometimes you have contract deals that lock you in where if you release it somewhere, you have to release it elsewhere. And so I don't know if they have that kind of contract, but it also generally is a messier beat if you have multiple launches. It's not a sim ship. So yeah, God, this is like honestly one of the worst nightmares you could have as a developer, and I really feel for them. But huge kudos to the QA team for discovering that bug. That's incredible to do that right before launch, so that people aren't getting impacted by it. And then major credit to the team and the publisher, PlayStack, I believe.
It's PlayStack, yeah. Goats, absolute goats.
Yeah, for being willing to say like, hey, we're going to take this and we're going to push the release date to make sure the experience is a positive one because we have a bug we know that is going to impact people and make the experience not great. So worst nightmare, but I can't honestly, they're handling it in such a just smooth, professional, like good way. I can't think of anything else that you would do.
Yeah. No, that's the
God,
first.
that's so stressful.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of is like, I cannot believe, like, I can only imagine the pit in your stomach you would feel getting this information essentially hours before hitting the button to go live. and just
Mhm.
having to like make that like have that realization creep over you of like we have to push this.
Yeah.
We can't release it if people are not going to be able to play it, especially in a
Yeah.
situation where you know that this is a rare bug and it's hard to
Mhm.
get it to work. Like I think a
Yeah, it's,
lot
like,
of
hard
people,
to reproduce,
yeah,
basically. Low repro, yeah.
I think a lot of people might say like, "Hey, maybe we just take the hit," and maybe some people have a problem.
Yeah.
So it speaks a little bit to the integrity of the team to be like, "No, we wanna make sure that this is the best for everybody possible when
Mhm.
they play it." I also really wanna shout out just the way that this is being communicated. Like, there are a lot of ways to do a delay announcement, and we've seen a lot of them here. Um, a lot of them tend to be this kind of, like, corporate word salad-y, sort of not really I mean, this is personal, direct, clear. It is so transparent in what it is saying and why it's happening, and so
Mhm.
profoundly, like, I almost feel like I wanna apologize to them reading it, be like, "Oh, no, don't even worry about it, like, I'm so sorry that you feel bad." Like, you can tell that the team feels bad that this is happening. Um, and I just really, really appreciate that kind of human touch to this sort of thing, and I think it's, kind of, also really good on the others like, indie fan side of things, because it's almost always when a game is delayed that the fans of indies will say like, "Hey, take what time you need," even even in a situation like this where we were all excited for it and it was coming out tomorrow. Um, so to have that like, this is why that kind of community is fostered, because you do more likely get that personal touch and transparency with indies than you get with, like, a AAA situation getting delayed. So the fans and the developers are kind of working in tandem to make this a really cool community industry space. I forgot what Janet's pun was, and I was like, "I should say Janet's pun right here," but
Oh,
industry
it was.
industry?
Well, now I'm worried that you're going to do it when Jill, you were doing so good, not making this, you know, more of a
Post
gaming
it down
podcast than it
below in
needs
the
to be.
comments, everybody. Let's do it. Let's make this a
It's like,
thing.
look, we're all tired of people making jokes. I mean, I've been guilty of it too, right? It's like, oh, I think I'm funny. Just talk to them about the games, right? Just lock it up a little bit. But yeah, this was obviously, yeah, I kind of echo all of the stuff y'all said. Like, it's nice to have something that is like so clear. I think FAQs like this are really like nice in formatting because it kind of addresses the thing that I think people would be most upset about, which is like how late they're being told and then being like, hey, this
Mhm.
is like literally as soon as I could tell you I did. And kind of I think also I like that they don't belabor it either. Like
Mhm.
you can
Yeah.
feel that it was a challenging situation and decision for them, but they're not framing it as like an excuse either. They're just kind of saying, hey, this is what happened, this is the situation we find ourselves in.
Mhm.
Here's what we're doing. Here's why we've considered other solutions, like the delay of the console port, and here's why we're not doing that solution. The game ultimately, and then kind of ending on that positive of like, this game is good, so it's not really going to matter kind of vibe, which obviously, again, and also acknowledging the fact that every developer thinks their game is good for the most part. I guess sometimes if a team's really big, you'll hear from some people like, I already knew this part wasn't good, but my part, sure, the late exceptions apply, but for the most part, like you set out to make a good video game and you feel like you have done that at least to some degree by the time
Mhm.
you're releasing it. Hopefully, you also hear of developers being like, I'm so close to it, I don't even know what I've made, which also
That's
very
most
valid.
common, I feel like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, is it good? Like, I wouldn't know, so yeah, also fair. But yeah, so hopefully things go well at launch. And it's cool for them to at least have like a little bit of extra time to maybe do some other things. Hopefully that feels as much like extra time as it can. Because I do think oftentimes in life when you have extra time formed, you just fill it with other stuff to the degree
Mhm.
where you now feel like back to being pressed for time. So yeah, hoping the best for the team. And I think also the fact that December 9th was the next closest kind of like island they could find themselves also speaks to the competitive landscape that indies are currently in, which is
Mhm.
a good problem to have, like as fans of the industry, but like obviously it can be really challenging to kind of try to find a spot for yourself. You know, we saw that earlier this year with like everyone delaying out of the Way of Silksong, which obviously like kind of became like meme status a little bit, or like meta marketing at a certain point. But it's just that idea of really trying to find a meticulous, perfect time. And, you know, perfect doesn't really fully exist ever, but you try to get as close as you can. And for them, that was their next one. Hopefully the Game Awards-ness of things doesn't, I guess, eclipse elements of their release, because I believe that that Thursday, so like 2 days after, is the Game Awards, I think. But I don't know. Maybe that could work in their... I don't... They're probably won't have a trailer of the Game Awards, but I don't know. Whatever. Hopefully things go well for them. Though they did have a trailer at a different Keeley thing, so it's not impossible, but not super likely.
Right. Well, I think that kind of flows really well into our topic of the show, which is November 11th, Cometh. Y'all, next week is wild.
You put all these games on an island and you make them fight it out.
Yeah, this is the new battle royale.
Brutal battle royale for next week. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great time. And there's a dichotomy there. And I think that the Unbeatable statement talks a little bit about this. And I want to expand on that particular note as we go through. But we have so many games to prepare for. I just want to do a quick rundown of some of my highlights. Y'all can throw some out if I miss any. But starting next week, we've got Ambrosia Sky Act 1, Rue Valley, Luminous Arise, Windswept, Goodnight Universe, Possessors, Winter Burrow, Gigasword, and then just to go beyond next week, or just could go beyond next week, talking about why December 9th might have been the best choice to move to. The week after that, we've got like the Berlin Apartment, we've got Force Strike, we've got Morsels, the Moonlighter 2 early access is coming out, Demon School is coming out, Monsters Are Coming, Rock and Road is coming out. Like it's wild the amount of things that are coming this month. So getting out of the month seems very smart, even if you are running up against some other things. So let's talk about that. I remember a time in my life where there was like an indie season, and it was usually much later in the year. And then as we get into these busier holiday seasons, November onward, essentially, and in October, halfway through October, the indies would kind of die down as far as like big releases, and then the AAA space would take over. But more and more, and I feel like I've talked about this, it seems like indie releases and big high-profile indie releases are taking space up in these later months and seem to be doing quite well. It seems to be working out for them. And we're talking about like Game of the Year discussions, Janet, not just like the Game Awards being there, but like, is it good for them not getting that highlight for, like, is it good or bad, or is there a mixture of both? I guess is kind of my thoughts of like, when they release this late, it is hard to talk about them in a Game of the Year situation. They're not getting the perhaps awards that they might if they release. Like if any of these games could be like suddenly everyone needs to play this game. Like The Saints of Blake Manor just came out, which I'm absolutely in love with. Just to make that clear, apparently I wasn't enthusiastic enough.
I know. We were talking before we started recording where I was like, the TLDR is I was trying to hone in on people's level for Seance of Blake Manor, and Jill's like, oh yeah, like red hot on it. It's awesome. It's like one of the best games that I've played this year. And I was like, oh damn, I thought it was just like a game you thought was good, but maybe not like super wavy. So if you listen to Remap Radio, I've messed that up. But again, I by no means said you like didn't like the game or anything. I just didn't realize how that this was like a put it on like whatever game you were gonna play. Which, Jill, you're so sweet. I'm sure you don't want to do this to any game, but like I didn't realize it was a throw all your other games away and boom, pick this up and play it level of like heat.
Yes.
I thought it was just like a good game. Okay. So
Yeah, I'm trying to like spread the message behind the scenes for everybody.
that's fine. I've been trying to beat the I don't like Silksong allegations. I'm like, guys, I keep playing this game, and just because it was really hard for the first 8 hours doesn't mean I don't like the game. So I'm right there with you, Jill.
Yeah.
I'm the criminal and the victim.
Janet is trying so hard to get people to play Silksong, and wouldn't you know it, everyone is playing Silksong.
Yeah. It's a tough
Yeah.
battle, but I'm here.
You're here for it.
Silk's greatest soldier.
Yep. No, but seriously, it is one of those issues when you have an indie game that comes out this late in the year. People behind the scenes, like big outlets, small outlet, everywhere, are already talking about their games of the year. They're trying to push through everything, like all their shame piles, to get through to be able to talk intelligently about what is something worth talking about. And when you have a game that drops that's so good, like The Seance at Blake Manor, you have to like, not only is it difficult because just as an indie game, you have to convince people to play it. That's sort of the reality of indie games to a big degree. But on top of that, now you have to convince people to play it in one of the busiest moments of the gaming calendar. And it really deserves it. So like for how much praise The Seance of Blake Manor is getting, it's one of the most high-rated games of the year so far.
I'm
It
sorry,
is
Jill.
it is still getting, like people don't have the time to put into it because they have to finish things. So, if they do get it, maybe they'll get to it, like, next year and be like, "Oh, actually, I did miss out on this really cool thing." But that hurts the indie game a little bit because you don't get swept up in this like discussion. But on the other side, it can be a real like recency bias. The best recent thing that you've played gets a lot of
Right.
passion.
Mhm.
So what do y'all think? Is this in my head that indies are kind of starting to push into other space? And is that a good or a bad thing or both?
I mean, from a marketing perspective, so when picking like release dates, a lot of times you're looking at not only what other games are releasing, you're looking at what events on Steam are happening at that time, because usually you're going to try to play off of a Steam event that has sort of a boost in visibility, and then you launch probably shortly thereafter, like a week later. And so, especially because Steam now has all of the different Next Fests, and those happen February, June, October, so that's pretty evenly spread through the year. And then they have the seasonal sales. I would say most games I would advise most games not to go on like release around a seasonal sale, because usually people are getting games that they wish listed that are now going to be on deep discount. But Steam Next Fest is the time when people are starting to look through. So you're already seeing spread happening because of the Next Fests and how they have impacted when people are going onto Steam to look for games. It's not just a summer and winter thing anymore. And then I think also, I'm not 100% sure, but when the pandemic was like in its sort of heyday, and a lot of the biggest games had to put in delays, had to like not release, we did see an influx of indies filling in those gaps. And I think because of that, there has been more like that momentum has started, and we'd have just seen indies continue to taking up space in places where AAA games maybe traditionally have held the most ground. And I think there's also been the advice relatively like in the last 3 years probably, where even if you have like major AAA releases or major releases like Silksong, where you want to shift the release date because that oxygen is being taken up in the room, there are benefits to being an indie launching adjacent to a AAA release, because it can help boost some of your visibility because maybe less indies are taking up that space, especially in, I don't know if you all know the Steam. Steam has, what is it? The popular upcoming.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
list of the most popular upcoming games, and it's 10 slots. It ranks all of the games coming up by wish list, and if you're up on that list, you get an extra boost in visibility. If everyone else has shifted their date except for that one game, that AAA game or that huge, AA game, there's space on that list. And so if everyone else has shifted the date and you haven't, there's stuff to take into account there. So I think there's just a lot more ways people are understanding how Steam as an algorithm works, how they've structured themselves, and it's opening up more opportunities for people to take in terms of sale slots and release date slots.
Jenny, listening to you is so fun. You know so much.
I
It's
know
just like
way too much about Steam
for
and
her
how
taking
sales
notes.
work on Steam.
It is a really cool thought like, it makes sense, but, I don't really think about how much external processes shape the landscape that all of this happens in.
Mhm.
So the fact that, like, indie games are so reliant not only on, like, Steam and what's happening and the fact that Steam is doing different things, but, like, the pandemic has done so many different things to the landscape of indie gaming. Like, I recently-ish wrote in Game Informer about cozy games and the rise of cozy games and how we saw so many more coming up during the pandemic and sort of allowing for that, and I'm like, not only in the way that we are seeing new releases come out, but, like, the genres that are emerging, also coming out of this really difficult time for sort of humanity, and it's just like, I can't fathom how many different things it has changed overall, because it's not only just like that, but, like, the reason that Steam started the Next Fest, and you can go back and look at our episode on the history of Steam Next Fest, it was part of the pandemic to be able to get people hands on games because there were no like, in-person gaming events for that year and foreseeable future from 2020 and 2022-ish. Like, the fact that that then has a knockoff effect to cause indies to move into spaces that it hadn't been before and possibly even getting into the mainstream even more than it had been before. Like, it's so like, someone has to do a book. Someone who's smarter than me has to do a book on how the pandemic really
You could do the book if you wanted to,
Mhm.
Jill.
Do it.
La, 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 la.
Do it.
Now, if you're like, I just don't want to do it, someone else do it, that's valid. But it doesn't need to be someone smarter than you. You could do it.
I could do it. Janet, what were you going to say before I rudely interrupted you?
No, you're good. I agree. Jenny's very smart and insightful and knows a lot about Steam, which
Jenny
does shape
could
the
write the
landscape.
book.
Jenny, a lot of people. Well, I guess could all of us? I could write the book. I don't
We
want
could
to.
co-write
So
the book.
we could
We don't
co-write the
have-
book.
Could we do it as,
Oh,
like,
we
the
all
party
got
game?
1/3 of a book. That
I think
sounds
we
about
each
right.
could do 1/3. Yeah.
That
Let's
sounds
all
about
do,
right.
like, I'll do the first word, Jenny does the second word, Janet, and then we all
And Mike, you're not allowed to work on the book, but we'll put your name on it just so
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
Mike can do the art of the
free
book.
job done. Anyway, yeah, I think it's a tough spot to be in terms of the annual conversation. I do think obviously there are many types of like listicles that float around the internet in terms of media, best indie games on Switch 2, best Switch 2 game. Like, you'll always see things, best survival horror, best games if you like this one game that people are really caring about right now. And I can get, maybe now you'll read my article, right? So everyone's playing their own system in terms of visibility on their written content or podcast content, etc. I think the challenge with so much of game content being kind of this annual conversation that especially starts to heighten as we get into the winter is that there's not really a standardization. The closest thing we have is like sort of Game Awards, because if one of you could look this up, that'd be great. But I forget what the cutoff date is for it. But I also I don't know how well the cutoff date aligns with even the voting element of Game Awards either. So I think there's definitely some room for improvement there. But then every outlet does it differently. And I think, obviously, I agree that like different outlets should be able to do their own thing. I'm not saying we should like make it a law, but something that I've struggled with as someone that creates a lot of annual content is which I guess we actually haven't talked about this here ever, but I feel like it doesn't come up as big of a problem in some ways, like with indies, maybe because indie games tend not are always shorter, but often can be shorter. Like I imagine the average time of an indie game is generally shorter than, you know, AAA, AA, late November for the general cutoff for Game Awards. Thanks, Jenny. Like there's not really as good of a standardization when it comes to like content. Like I know over at MinMax we argued about this quite a bit, like at the end of last year of, hey, what are we doing for these games that are like in December? Because we record like mid-December. And sort of what we decided was like, we'll just kind of deal with it, which like I'm team, let's do a hard cutoff, just because at a certain point you can't keep doing content. And I think like this is something that I'm even trying to reflect with for myself when it comes to like having a representation of a year. When do I want to make my own cutoff for? Because if I'm trying to get that content out before the year is done, which most people do because it's much more popular, much more clickable, audiences are more interested. I know a lot of audience argue, why don't you just do it in January? The drop off on interest in of the year content is like massive. That being said, some people still do that. I know Remap, we just moved to doing that. Like starting last year, we do it just in January. And obviously, you know, crowdfunding company, different needs in terms of like chasing that like kind of high or whatever. But yeah. So that's the thing where it's like, when am I going to stop trying? It's kind of what I have to decide. And I think us as an industry kind of need to decide that, because otherwise you end up disservicing yourself and the games. Like you're rushing to kind of form opinions. You're rushing through content. We're kind of always rushing through content, but I think even more so when you're trying to fit stuff in. Like at a certain point, I think you have to decide for yourself, I don't care how good the game is, I'm kind of done, unless you have like extra time, right? If you've already played, like, you know, we talked recently about games we want to make sure we get to before the year is up. It's like, oh, if I in a world where I finish Consume Me and Dawnfolk and all these other titles that I'm missing, maybe then I can pick up the December 3rd release game. But like I don't think we're in that world, so maybe we should just kind of work towards a little bit more of like a standardization on that end, because with games, it's kind of the Wild West. You don't know how long a game will be, how big a game will be, how relevant a game will be, and you kind of just have to like try to make those decisions. But I think people get greedy when titles actually start coming in, where it's like everyone will say, oh, like, you know, on the AAA side, we won't do December. Ooh, but Metroid Prime 4 is out. I want to be able to talk about that. Like, I just kind of assume it's gonna be good. It's like, yeah, but we have to like, you kind of have to find something and stick to it. I think November, I'm definitely feeling, I don't know how y'all feel about content, but come November, like now that we're in November, I definitely am feeling the walls closing in. I'm starting to think maybe my cutoff should be your game has to come out before Thanksgiving for me to consider it like in like for a personal like level, at least generally speaking, because I have so much of a backlog from the year that I'm trying to get to. If I finish that stuff and have some time, sure, but at a certain point, and I think for me, once December hits, I'm pretty much not playing anything that's new. But now I'll have to do a little bit more because Remap is now January, so now I have to take up the December games. So it's a mess. There's no solution, and it is sloppy and bad.
The world is
really
burning.
the truth.
There's nothing we can do.
Yeah. Jill, what do you do for your like stuff? Are you like
before
what are your lines?
I do want to say the Game Awards usually picks a date between November 15th and November 30th, typically a Friday as their cutoff date. So it's not like a set, like always it'll be November the 20th or whatever, for them to decide. So like the games that we're talking about for next week could theoretically, if they make enough waves, get into the Game Awards. So that would be wild. And I feel like people are probably forming opinions way before that and making their lists way before that. So
yeah, obviously, like I've been a voter before. I don't think there's much you can really disclose on that end. Like I voted in last year's. But I will say because this element is public information, I will be eyeing what is that date and what date do nominees get announced. Because if the date is right before the date, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's not. I think sometimes when people create dates, they forget that there's like, if your cutoff date is like, I don't know, November 5th, like what is that today, right? November 5th. You still have to like play the game though. And it's like if the cutoff is like, and I'm making up these dates because these aren't necessarily dates. If the cutoff is the 5th and you put in your votes on the 6th, well, you can't play the game that comes out on the 5th though, because it would be impossible. So like what you know, so yeah, but it's hard to make a perfect system. Like there's always going to be flaws. I don't think that means we shouldn't be critical of them, but yeah, that seems a little
right.
My eyebrow is lifted at how that works.
The difficulty for like Unbeatable, especially is in my head right now, because I think Unbeatable is going to be high on the list. I think it's going to be, from what I understand of it, I think it's going to generate buzz. It is a difficult place to have your game release because, technically speaking, it will be eligible for talks next year, but that's going to be a year and a month removed from the next time we're talking about Game of the Year. So you do tend to kind of forget these games that release in December, especially indie games. So that's very, very hard. But also, I wonder if that's, I mean, it's always great getting an award, but I wonder if more people, because of the holidays, getting time off, you tend to play more games. So like it might be more viable to release in this time period that people can just pick up and get a you know, not inexpensive, but like not as expensive as like a AAA game and have a good experience. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of interesting strategies around that. But as for how the Indie Informer covers Game of the Year stuff, I don't tend to do a Game of the Year because I don't
You don't want to put the games in a panopticon and make them fight for your love?
Kind of, yeah.
I'm sick. I love that. It's like my favorite part of the year. But no, speak on it.
I've had to read the Panopticon, and it was wild to have to just grasp the concepts. But throughout the year, I will denote games that are Game of the Year contenders. Hello, Bruce. How are you?
So
what is your
cute.
Game of the Year?
Oh,
Napping.
He hasn't played anything since. Let me think. What game has he stared at the most?
Oh my gosh, that's what we have to do as a council. Add a new award for cat
For the
game.
cat game of year.
Yeah,
cat
I like to
stared at.
pretend my cat has like actual taste in things based on how much he stares at whatever media is on the TV. I feel like he's sleeping through a lot of the games I'm playing this year.
Okay.
So he has bad taste, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, poor Bruce.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I tend to really enjoy, because we talked about why we need to do stuff in December versus January, and like January's tough because people are really looking for what's new and what's hot in the new year. Like you hit the new year and people are like, right, I'm washing away the pile of shame that I haven't gotten through. I don't want to think about that.
Why are you talking about old shit? That was like a million years ago, even though it was like 1 month ago.
Yeah, 100%. So I tend to focus on what's coming up, and like I'll be doing a couple of articles on what's coming up in 2026, or hopefully coming up in 2026, and those usually do big numbers in January. But it's interesting for the Indie Informer because we tend to take all of December off. And I do that for like personal reasons, but also just because writing is tough, and this time of the year is really tough to get a lot of people focused on stuff. So it's like we should all get a break. We are like, we'll talk about this a little bit, I think, is regarding next week, but like having the lead up to Game of the Year season and being in the midst of it is really like go, 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 go. You are burning a lot of oil. You are burning a lot of fuel. Like you get to that point where you're just really pushing to hit the end of the year, whatever that end of the year is for you. So I personally think that content that hits in December tends to be not lower quality, but like it doesn't have the same passion because you are trying to put so much in. if that makes sense. So I'm just like, let's just, sit back, relax. Games that are coming out, we try to cover as much as you can, but you can't do it all, and you have to be okay with that. But that is a unusual decision to make, and it's weird in the sense that maybe only the Indie Informer can do that, as a sense of like, I don't need the website to be making those numbers. I don't need like clicks and views. I don't need to worry about what my parent company thinks about, because we don't have a parent company. I don't need to think about advertisers and how to get that sort of thing in, because the community funds us, and usually, again, very lovely indie community appreciates when you're taking care of your people. So it is a difficult time of the year that indies are coming out in December. Like, it may mean that I'm not going to cover Unbeatable, that it comes out December 9th, unless I get the code like wildly early, which I don't think is going to happen if they're having a bug problem. But I'm here to celebrate that game. I would love to shout it out. But yeah, it means that maybe I won't see it. And that is maybe the drawback to this, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I want to talk to y'all. I want to talk to y'all on a personal human level, because I talked about it a little bit just now, but like, with all of these games that I just listed, most of them being sort of like must cover games, like, how do you deal with that kind of embarrassment of riches? How do you decide what to cover? Because, like, again, I want to be clear, if I could cover everything, I would. But as a human being with only so many hours in the day, trying to keep my mental health together as much as humanly possible, if whatever it was there to begin with. Like, how do y'all deal with this very strange dichotomy of being an indie fan and wanting to cover everything, and being a professional who covers games who can't burn themselves out during this busy time period?
There are 4 buckets. I'm making this up like 10 seconds ago. 4
Right.
buckets. So I
4
might add more
buckets.
buckets or take some away.
Okay.
That a game, for me, like why I'm covering a game. One is, I guess you'll call it like, I'll call it expertise. There are certain genres that I am very well versed in, that I also have like a strong affinity for, where I try to cover kind of everything in it, even if it's a game that, frankly, I'm not super confident is going to be amazing, but I feel like I'll have something interesting to say about it, and that it'll be intriguing. So that's where I'll put sometimes like a narrative game that maybe isn't, I don't know, an obvious like, wow, I think this is going to be an incredible game, but I'm like, I like what they're doing with it. I have an expertise in the style. A game like I think this is an indie. Like a game like Season, which frankly I didn't end up loving Season, but like that's such a me game where it's like, yeah, I want to see what they're doing, and I'm like excited to like cover this, and I feel like it's also a little bit of a niche that I have that not everyone has. So it's like, this is great because I can kind of like bring my insight and my excitement for like the style to this game. And sometimes I'm awarded with a really great game. Sometimes I'm not, but either way, that's cool. The other layer is clout. And by that, I mean like a game that's so big, you feel like almost like it's dumb if I don't cover it. And not even from like a views perspective, but just like it's such a big point in the conversation. That's where I would put something like Silk Song. History tells me I'm not gonna like that game. Turns out I did, which is also another reason I play a lot of games, because sometimes you'll get surprised. But it's like, oh, it's just the big game. I want to be able to talk with other people about the big game. Then there's like, I don't have a cute name for it, but like hidden gem potential, like a game that you feel like I don't really see a lot of people talking about this game. So I want to make sure I cover it, because I think it could serve as something interesting, and I could be almost part of like more of a tastemaker, right? Again, a game like Silk Song, the marketing is so strong, everyone's playing it, whatever. Like you're not real. I mean, you can still cover it. I don't think you need to only cover to raise up games, but maybe that's like a level of value that you want to try to bring of like, oh, I think this could be cool. Let me like latch onto it. And then the other one, I'm trying to remember what was the other one. The other one was like, I forgot what the fourth one was, but like that's kind of the fourth one's guaranteed win. So that's when I'll cover something late or play something late. Like, so for instance, I forget if this is indie. Is Dispatch? That's indie, right? Am I hallucinating that? Okay, Dispatch, for instance. I'm really busy. That could fall into like passion because I love story games. But I just feel like I've been really busy lately. I've kind of just been letting games fall to the wayside while I've been focusing on Silksong. And my colleague over on Remap, Patrick Klepek, he is into story the way I'm into story. We have very similar tastes. He told me that he played the first episode, and I saw that in Discord, and I said, great. I'm going to wait until what he says. And if he likes it, then I'm going to play it. And if he doesn't like it, I'm not going to play it. Like, which obviously it's a little dramatic because it's like that's one person. But sometimes you just don't have time. And especially as the year starts closing in on you, I'm like, I kind of just want to play stuff that is like really hot. Like, people are really hot on it. It has a contender to be maybe in my top 10. Like, it's breaking through the noise. So those are sort of the 4 categories that I think almost every game falls into. To some degree. And obviously, like, if there's just space, there's games that you look forward to and you kind of just like pick them. And I'm not necessarily saying I want one clout game, one passion game, one whatever, but that tends to be like sort of the slot they end up filling, where it's like, oh, again, I know I'm going to play this because of what a talker it's going to be, or I know I want to play it because this is my expertise, or I know I want to play this because Jill already told me it was good and I like the last game Jill told me, so I'm going to play, stuff like that or whatever. So that's it. And sometimes there's times where it's like I hit in a zone, and like right now, I don't know if I'm not fully in this zone. Like, I do want to play there's some upcoming games that are coming out that I'm like, I want to play this because of the reasons that I listed. But as stuff starts to close in, I am kind of in a like almost a hibernation state where it's like I'm not chasing the calendar as much as the year's closing. So now I'm kind of looking around what either coming up or having already came out are those really hot games that could break through to my top 10. And then I'm kind of just picking those and play and preferencing those in a way that I'm not as deeply maybe like earlier in the year when I have a little bit more, when it feels like I have more time. I actually have the same amount of time throughout the entire year, but something about like November, it's like, I gotta get out, and you're like ripping the plastic cellophane wrap off your face and gasping for air.
Yeah.
Was that helpful, or is that scary?
No, that was a great visual for me. I really appreciated it. But like, does that make you feel different? Do you feel differently approaching November 11th than say like the May 9th? That was the May 9th that was. No more context.
Only a little bit. I think so, like there are games on there. It depends also, I think, on like almost like, this sounds so like cheesy, like gamer cheesy, but it's true. Like, what's my hype level for the game? Which sounds like so like dumb, but it's true. Like, a game like Goodnight Universe, I loved Before Your Eyes. That's from like the same team that made Before Your Eyes. I kind of don't care. Like, I know I'm going to play that. And it also hits all these other levels too. And that kind of feeds into like, which maybe we could talk about this, like what gets a game on your release calendar. And it's not that dissimilar than the 4 buckets I named, but like that's been on my calendar before I even knew it existed kind of game. So it's like, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to play that. Even if I got to it late, I'm going to play it. Even if you said, honestly, Janet, it sucks, I'd be like, that's crazy. I got to see this still. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to play it anyway. Like, there are games like that where it's like, I just know I'm going to play it. Oh, like versus like Winter Burrow. That's also very high for me. Like on that November 12th. It's not as high as Goodnight Universe because Goodnight Universe is almost as high as it can get for me, but it's like pretty up there because it's a game that I've like dabbled in a lot. Like I've spent more time thinking about that game and playing that game than I have even like a game like Windswept, which I still am looking forward to and did do a demo on that. I'm like, okay, cool. So there's sort of, and then I'm triaging that, but obviously depending on my mood, maybe I would say, okay, I know for a fact that like all of you got like for like this show, for instance, I know all you guys are probably going to play Winter Burrow, or there's a good chance because we've talked about the game a lot. I know Windswept isn't as like hot in the indie council streets. Maybe I choose to say I'm going to make sure I play that because I don't necessarily think you guys will, and I want to like, bring a more round conversation to the podcast. I don't always think about all my gaming in terms of that, but it's like a layer that can be like fun or helpful or just like it's worth thinking about, even if I'm not going to fully act on it. So it just sort of depends on how excited I am for those games coming up. At this point, I am kind of only pulling over the metaphorical car for games that I like know kind of well versus like, Possessors. Like, am I forgetting Possessors? Who develops Possessors? Am I like blank mixing that up?
I want to say
on
that's
who that is.
Right? That's
a
big one.
Publisher. Is it? Is that the freaking game by the Guacamelee people, or is that a different game? I don't remember.
Is that the Devolver Digital one?
Oh, that might be it.
I'm trying to remember what Possessors is. But spoilers for the conversation. Possessors isn't making the cut, and not because I think it's going to be a bad game or anything. It's just not
it's Devolver.
as high.
And
Okay,
Heart
so it's
Machine.
Devolver.
It's made by
Heart
Heart
Machine.
Machine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that has, station seeds of things. I like Heart Machine's projects, but like I don't know as much about Possessors. I'm not as excited for Possessors as I am like Winterboro and Goodnight Universe. So, like that's an easy. We're not, looking at it as I'm not looking at it as much on this calendar where it's like, again, it is a point in the year where I want to be like kind of ravenously excited to stop the car because the car is kind of full. But I'm like, we gotta make this stop because look, they have the world's biggest yarn ball on the side of the road. And it's Goodnight Universe or whatever. But that's always kind of ebbing and flowing with like what's going on in a lot of factors, like what's going on with the show, what's going on in my personal life, what's going on with my work travel. Like there are many times where it's like I just get hit with bad travel days where it's like I feel like I'm taken away from things and I'm catching up on stuff. So you're kind of always making concessions. And I guess that's like maybe a more positive way to think about end of the year content. Like it's a form of concession, but you make concessions all the time, whether it's like a holiday or like a big life event or whatever. And you kind of just do what you can with what you have, with what makes sense. And that's always changing. Like if it was a direct formula, we wouldn't have to think about anything. But then we also would lose a little bit of like the whimsy of life or like the free nature of being able to like have flexibility and move with like shifting conversations and also your own shifting like tastes or priorities.
The whimsy of life. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm gonna
Yeah,
try
if you
to
get too
hold
much
on
whimsy
to.
though, your schedule's just fucked, which is kind of where I've been for like the last
Too much
year,
whimsy.
where I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of just going with what's going on and it's like nothing's happening. But yeah, you need a balance like most things. But what about y'all? How do you like deal with a really packed release week or release day?
I mean, I'm similar to you. I think the buckets analogy is one that I've used before, in terms of like types of content to create and then how I pick the content I want to focus on. And I think the difference is I do personally like I always try to prioritize what I'm most hyped about because generally, like, especially because I am independent in terms of how I make content and how like I'm not doing it for necessarily journalism purposes. I'm doing it for a specific audience who likes a specific type of game. And for me, that's just like I will gravitate towards a certain niche. But especially in November, I really try to like the prioritization in terms of what am I really actually excited about? What have I been historically excited about? That's what's really keeping me like on track because otherwise it would be too much and I would not be able to do anything because I'd be overwhelmed with the wealth that we have. But yeah, exactly. So it's like for me, when I look at that November 11th window, I already know like Goodnight Universe, Winterboro are probably my top two because I've been so excited for so long and I'm ready. Ambrosia Sky is one that like peaked out during PAX and I was like, this was a surprising demo to me. And I was really actually pleasantly surprised by it. So I'm like ranking these games essentially in terms of hype and then trying to just go down the list based on that. But yeah, I think the bucket analogy is honestly perfect because while I personally prioritize based on hype, I do also keep in mind like I think clout or sort of like industry hype meter, not just a personal hype meter. That's really important. And it's honestly why, like, I think, well, no, I would have played Silk Song regardless. I'm trying to think of another game that was maybe really hyped this year. That was an indie, but I feel like my brain is also tired, so I'm not thinking of anything.
Yeah.
Like Blueprints.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I would have played
But didn't you get to
Blueprints.
that before? Maybe.
Yeah,
I
I
remember
was
if it was like
already.
embargo zone that you played it.
Yeah,
I think too. One thing I do because I don't feel a lot of
Seance
guilt.
Blake Manor.
yeah.
I don't
Seance
feel
of
a
Blake
lot of-
Manor, that's another
yes.
one. Yeah,
I don't feel
like,
a lot of
okay.
guilt usually for like content or things I miss. Like again, while I work with a couple different companies, the companies I work with are independent, so there really definitely isn't like a big pressure to like produce a certain amount of things or play a certain amount. Like it's pretty free form. And in that freedom, sometimes I lose my own like thread of like the kind of content I want to make, and I want to like work on honing that in and doing more stuff, like producing more content from the games I play, because I feel like that's where I'm most lacking personally. But the only guilt I do feel, and this is something I've been trying to work on this year, because I love beating games, is making sure that I beat the games that I like. I think it's okay to beat a game you don't like that much, but I sometimes get to the end of the year and I'm like, there are games, I know this is often more in the AAA space than indie, but it happens in indies too. Like I never beat Dredge. I loved Dredge, but it was a little bit on the longer side, and it just kind of got away from me. And I really want to make sure if I'm loving a game that I stick with it and like finish that, because I've finished games that I've not loved and just liked. I finished games that I haven't even liked, you know? So it's like, and I feel guilty about that, where it's like, and sometimes that, back to the kind of content you make, sometimes you finish a game or play a game more out of the convenience, right? Like going back to the list, Luminous Arise, the kind of game that is, that's the sort of game where 30 minutes of that game goes so much farther than like 30 minutes of like Goodnight Universe would. Like that would still be maybe we're because Goodnight Universe is probably going to be a short game, right? Like if we compare it to Before Your Eyes is like a 2-hour game. So it's weird because if you play only 30 minutes of a 2-hour game, it feels like you didn't really play the game. Like you barely played it, because it's like you kind of have to, it's so short that you kind of have to finish it, or at least get really far to like have a meaningful conversation. But Luminous Arise, because it's like the kind of a Tetris-y like puzzle experience, you can kind of jump into that, and 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes can go pretty far. So maybe it's like, even though Luminous Arise is not as like high on my list as like Windswept in a way, one actually has been getting some buzz, so it kind of is getting a little bit higher. But I know that I can spend very little time with that game and get a good content payoff. The same with like, I haven't streamed my best of series in a while, but when I stream that, I do like the new games out from that week that catch my eye. Sometimes a game is so short, or there's not as much stuff out in the week, where I just end up finishing it. So like I finished like Koira, for instance, from this year, and frankly, I really did not like Koira. I did not think Koira was like very good, but I beat that game. That feels silly in a world where there's other games that I really liked that I haven't beaten. And that's just because Koira just kind of got, I don't want to pretend like me beating your game is like this great thing, but Koira got lucky in that sense in terms of getting coverage for me. There was not other stuff out that week that I was interested in. I played it. It was short enough that I finished it. I streamed it. I did like a full Let's Play title. You know, that's like, there's so many, if we're just thinking of like giving time to games, it's like, how many games get a full Let's Play from me? Not many. And that one just kind of got lucky in that it was at the right time. It was short enough. I didn't have other stuff to do. And I was like, well, I'm just going to finish it because I'm already almost done, even though I didn't like it. So I guess you could argue that's like negative for the game, that it's like in the stream, I talk about the game and I'm like, yeah, this is why it's not working for me, blah, blah. But like, that's still so much more than I give other games. And sometimes it's just like the luck of the draw in the situation, where it's like I'm not always setting out with perfect hindsight into things, right? If I knew what I would think, right? If I knew what I thought of that game, I probably wouldn't have played it at all. But like that was the point of playing it, is to find out. So it's like it's that kind of thing too, where it's like, how come you finished Koira but Dredge is drowning in the sea? And I'm like, I'm sorry, Dredge, you were just like longer, and I was bad at keeping track of you. Even though, you know, again, sense wise, that doesn't make any sense. And yet here we are. So that's the only thing that I do feel guilty about, that I'm trying to work on, making sure that if I'm enjoying it, don't lose that through line. Let's see it through, because that's what you wanted to do. So you should do the things you want to do and not just like get distracted by all the other stuff that's coming out. I think it's easy to lose track of things, and Blueprints, maybe, I don't know if it'll come back for you, but that's an exact example of that. But that one, I feel like in hindsight, that was avoidable. This is like therapy for me now, where I'm just like talking about this thing, because I started Clear Obscure, and then I ended up really loving that game in a way that I wasn't necessarily expecting. And I guess I should have stopped and been like, let's finish Blueprints first. But it's just, sometimes it's hard to know where games will lead you to, which I think is like a challenge of the job. Like you could sit down and say, I want to beat this game. Oop, boss is hard. You're not going to beat it now. You know, like there's so many factors that can impact how coverage goes, how enjoyment goes, how like finishing a game goes. So it's obviously like our job is fun in that we work with games, right? And that's inherently fun and cool. But like it's hard to be organized in gaming for those reasons, because it's such like there's so many variables going on. We didn't even touch on the fact that like if these games are embargoed, when do you get them? When do you know? And then sometimes you screw yourself, right? You pick up too many. Let's say you're interested in all these games, right? And you're like, I want to review all these games, and you request code for all these games, and then you realize, oh my god, like I got them all at once or all in these weird stuff, like. But you don't know. Like it's hard to make it as good as it can be, and we're never going to be perfect. But it's like, how do we continue to tweak our own personal systems to try to optimize them, even though that sounds insanely corporate, but it is kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. I want to shout out, by the way, for that last one, Wanderstop, who gets the award this year for just being so perfectly ahead of time with the code and being able to like play it, because that was it was an important game to take your time in, and I feel like there are a lot of games where you need to take your time, but people don't have the time to take your time, so you get worse thoughts because of that. Also, I love how Janet's version is a blueprints, where my version of I don't have enough time to play this and I kind of know how I feel about it is a Silk Song. So
Mine, honestly, I feel so bad. This is kind of like therapy right now, because that is me with Claire Obscure right now, because I'm like, I know I love that game, but it's like I know also I have so much left, and you have to be ready to like sink into it. And so when I have time to play, I'm like, okay, I could right now sit down and play some Claire, or I could just like bust out maybe a couple other smaller games, because like you have to be ready. You have to be like mentally, emotionally ready, because I know I'm also right before act 2, and I know it's probably going to devastate me going into that. And so I'm just like, do I want to cry right now? Probably not. And then I just decide to pick something else. And I need to sit down this weekend and just finish Claire Obscure. Just has to happen.
I need to start it.
See, now I feel validated in the things I've done from hearing these things. I'm like, I beat Act 2 of Silk Song Sports, what we've been playing, and I beat Claire Obscure, and I'm like, yeah, like everything's going according to plan. Almost. Again, I have some things I want to clean up, and yeah, Blueprints really got screwed in that. It's hard to. That's something I'm going to work on for next year. Trying to somewhat standardize, like how many games am I playing, and like, I guess I should have known that I was so far into Blueprints. I should have said, you know what, I have to finish this now, but I just messed up.
It's difficult because that is it. It's sort of the antithesis of being human and like taking care of yourself in this job. It can be very hard in a passion job to take care of yourself and to watch over your energies, because you can be playing something that you really like, but then there's like, oh, now I'm going to PAX and I have to get all of this stuff done, and I'm flying out. Like if I'm Jenny, I'm flying out every other month to do something amazing and fabulous. Sometimes my mental health just isn't where it needs to be in order to complete a game. Sometimes I feel like Janet, I love that you brought this up. I didn't really think about it, but the fact that like I know y'all have Claire Obscure kind of covered, I don't feel as much pressure to get it done, because I'm like, the people that love it are repping it, and that's great, and I'm gonna get to it. I think the thing that makes these hubs of indie releases so incredibly interesting and vibrant and terrifying all at the same time is that all of these games fall into like the important buckets that Janet has talked about for me. So like I feel like I can't say like, oh, like any one of these games I look at, I'll be like, oh, maybe I don't have to worry about it. But then I think of like, oh, Luminous Arise. Mike loves this game. Mike is 100% like team Luminous Arise. He played it back at Summer Game Fest, I think. And he's just been beating the drum for it ever since. So I'm like, okay, I respect Mike a lot, and I know that it is an unusual game for him to be sort of championing. So I'm like, okay, now I need to see what that's about. And maybe that really takes me. Also, like Possessors, I am like, okay, that needs to be done, because like Heart Machine is such legacy Devolver Digital, a high level, like it looks beautiful. I played the demo of it. Like I can't like, and then I get into this weird like tie a piece of buttered bread to a cat and see which one falls. Like you just spin around and around.
Yeah. Cato.
Yeah.
I gotta finish that game too. That game's so fun. I love that game.
Mhm. Actually, there is a Butter Side Down, which I just talked about on the Indie Informer, which you should go play. But it is a revolving door of just like, oh, but I need to play this. Oh, but I need to play this. Oh, but this one is really good. So like I kind of get into the like decision what's the word?
Oh,
Paralysis.
Yeah, choice paralysis.
Where I'm just like, everything is really good. There's not one thing where I'm like, I need to go in on this. But like I don't have time to not go in on all of them. And I'm so excited. I just want to like tell everybody about how good next week is going to be, because like when you step outside my silly brain and stop thinking about it as like work, it is in essence an amazing time to be an indie fan and just have all of these amazing choices to choose from, hopefully going into a time when you have time off to go and play all of these games. Like I'm thinking I'm getting December off, that has a certain amount of scariness because I'm like, oh, I only have a few weeks to get all my content out. But then once that's done, I'm like, I'm just going to be playing these games. And I don't like, it's weird because like when your job is to cover games, you play games all year. So it's kind of weird to think about like, oh, finally I have time to play games. But like that sort of is where I'm going. So like, am I going to wait until December to play Claire Obscure? Maybe. Like, to finally have those.
Not to give you more stress, but this is something that happens to me. Then will you feel guilt after? Because I've had that where I get to a game like really late and I'm like, hey, this is really good. I wish I could have said more about that when it was relevant. And obviously you can still cover games after the fact, and we do all the time. But it is one of those things where I'm like 2 years later, I'm like, hey guys, I finished the game that was on your game of the year list. And you were right. But that year I just sat there because I didn't where it's like, damn, I felt that way with even though I still haven't finished these games, but the what the hell is it called? The Golden Idol games. Mm-hmm. Like I still haven't beaten like either of them, but I started the second one and I'm like, yeah, this is really good.
It
damn.
Is. It's really good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you like, does that happen to you, or are you like, do you not have that? Because I have that. I'm not trying to give you my what's the word? Like not disorders, but like my illnesses, I don't want to like give you my what do they call it? It's like hang-ups, kind of like
a neurosis
complex. Yeah,
complex.
I don't want to give you my complexes, but is that something that you afflicted by that as well? Because I feel that just for a second. I don't like hold it for a long time, but I'm like, ugh,
I really do think that there's something about my brain when I'm done, when the deadline or the whatever and it's passed and I haven't done it. My brain just wipes it and it's just like, nope, you're going forward now. I want to in part thank Dan Tack from Game Informer, whose philosophy influenced me a lot on the backlog and how you should feel about it. And like the game you're playing right now, the game you're excited about is the one you should be playing. And there should be no guilt about games you haven't played because you're playing it's all kind of like what you're doing now is what you're meant to do sort of idea. And I'm like, I love that. I try to hold on to it. I'm not always
meant to do nothing. I'm like, I'm glad you said that because I'm just gonna sit on my ass and scroll TikTok instead of gaming.
But it's like, that we're not. There's something inside of every single person who decides to make this their job that doesn't allow them to, because it would be really easy for a lot of us who are in like independent situations to sit back and not do anything. But like there's something about us that like freaking Mike, who is just, when he gets too stressed, he puts on an indie label, like there's something about us that like pushes us to do all of this. And if there wasn't, we wouldn't be here. So I think a lot of us try really past the point of health to do what we're doing. we push ourselves a little too far. Janet.
It's me doing my horns. When I'm
Mhm.
evil, this is what I do in my apartment with Isaiah. I have my little horns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I
like,
mean,
it's much
why?
more likely that anyone sitting here right now would, like, put our mental health on the line rather than not do something. So, like, just I wanna to the audience, to you watching, to everybody here, take time for yourself. Make sure you're okay. Make sure that you're not pushing those oils too far, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Here, here.
Do as I say, not as I do. I mean, I think, yeah, it's there's just like I think the thing that's specific
Accusation.
about content creation, not to make it all just about like our work, because I think that's interesting definitely to the audience, but only to like a degree, right? So I try not to get to like, this is what it's like to be me, but this is what it's like to be me.
I
The
think that's part of what
differences-
people watch the show
yeah,
for.
it's like a mix, right? It's like you don't want to get too, I don't know, up your own ass about it, but like the thing is, it's like the joy is part of the joy is the suffering a little bit, because it's like it's fun to make stuff. Like I think we all who do this job, whether you're doing like YouTube videos or Twitch streams or whatever, like you like making the thing. It's also why like it's so important to not be as obsessed with like the numbers and all these other things, because it's like it's about like fueling your passion, and your passion needs to be the thing itself, not what you get out of it, not the money, not the clout, not the numbers, not the what, just knowing that like I got to make it, and like having that feeling, like I think that's what creates longevity in a career, or even if you do this as like a hobbyist, like on the side of your day job, and you're like, I just like making, like, and a lot of people do, because it's like it's fun to make stuff. And it's like the thing that I like so much more than games, and I love games, is talking about games, writing about games, analyzing games, thinking about games. Like part of why I play games is to talk about the game. Like that's when the real game begins. And I get that for some audiences, I think they can, in my opinion, inaccurately perceive that as like you don't like games as much as like a fan does, because it's like your love is impure. But it's not that the love is impure, it's that your love for something else is bigger. And I think the thing that ends up happening like on a content perspective is like sometimes it's clear the ways that love eclipses the other one, and that's why it's like why would I like finish a game that I don't like, or try a game that isn't my taste? It's like because it's the pursuit of the other part, and like that's my favorite part, like learning more about it. And like sometimes I am just obviously gaming for fun, like when I at this point, if I'm booting up Lemon Cake, like that's just me time, right? Like I'm not really, I've talked about that game a lot in content, I've done stuff on it, I can make more, you can always make more content, but there are plenty of games that I think we all play for fun, or that we even have, like I even have that for like where I almost make a rule of like, this is just like a me game, like I'm not gonna like talk about it. There are times I post about games and people are like, man, I'd love to see you stream this, are you gonna stream it? And I could, and people would probably watch it because they're asking me for it, but I'm like, no, this is just me and my sofa, and I'll open Blue Sky sometimes to like post things because I like sharing it, but like that's kind of it. But yeah, like that's the difference where but it does change your relationship to games, and it does in a way make your relationship with games worse, but it also makes the other stuff better. So it's like a trade-off. I take the debuff on enjoying games in the like regular fan sense, because I get so much more out of the other parts, and I think that's true just to varying degrees for like everybody to some aspect. But yeah, so
God, that's so
enjoy
good.
not being us, but also enjoy the content. Like the joke I make is like, I play games so you don't have to, like to my audience, and that's true. Like even as a fan, you have limited time, you have limited money. Like there are like, it seems silly, but part of what I feel like I provide is like a service of giving. For some people, like I'm there. What Patrick is for me, right? Tell me if this is good. I know if you say it, I'll like it and get into it. And boom, oh, it's bad. Great. You saved me time. You saved me money. Like that's also an element of it. So it's like, that's also part of the work, and colors what you play outside of what you would play if you were banned from making content. Like I think about that. I don't know if you guys ever think about that, like how your life would be different with games if you were like banned from like ever talking about them or making content. And honestly, like a lot of the games I played would be the same, but not all, but a lot of that, like I'd be playing a lot of the same games, like you mentioned, Jenny, like a lot of this is just our taste reflected. But it would be different. Yeah.
I would be devastated if we couldn't talk about the games we played. Like
Me
that's just
too.
such
That's
a
so fun.
nightmare scenario.
It's so funny to think that like some part of the reason we're doing this is because we're trying to capture that time in like elementary school where you all gather on the playground and talk about the games that you're playing.
See, did that happen for you guys? Because people always mention that. Bro, no one I knew played games. I was
Oh,
just hanging out. Like, it was
all
just
the
me and my
time.
brother.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
no
it was
one
me and
else
my
I
brother.
knew. Yeah.
I got made fun of because I
Oh,
brought
no.
my Game Boy to school, and kids
Oh
were like, "Oh my
no!
god,
I'm
nerd!"
going
And I was
back in
like,
time and beating all these people up because I had
I
a group
know.
around me that were like really game intensive, and like
That's so
it's
cool.
part of why I started getting the Game Informer magazine because I wanted to be like in
Aw.
that crowd and everything. But it's just like
Yeah, like when you talk about this, Jill, I feel like you're the people that had like a tree house where it's like no one really had one, and it's like that kind of vibe. Did you also have a tree house?
We didn't have a tree house. My dad did make
I
us like a
fucking knew it.
Called
I
it.
fucking
He
knew
called
it. I
it.
fucking knew. Yeah, you're living in a fucking like Arthur.
I'm living in the
episode.
world.
And me and Jenny lived in reality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gay rat wedding.
But yeah,
I want to take a second and step out of what we've been talking about to just appreciate you guys and appreciate the council and that I get to do this because like I'm listening to Jenny. I'm like, Jenny's so smart. I'm listening to Janet. I'm like, Janet tells like I don't know how you're saying what I'm feeling, but you're saying it. And I'm like, this is the stuff right here. Like I love being a part of the indie council. I love talking with you guys. Like this is the juice. This is a lot of the reason to play these games is to come in and be like, I can't wait to talk about y'all about like what I've just experienced in this game, and it's like devastating me, and I can't wait to have it devastate you so we can talk about it. So yeah, it is a very strange dichotomy of love and I don't know what the other part of it, like anxiety maybe is the other part of getting all this work done. Um, but yeah, it's cool to be here. I just want to step out. I don't know if Jenny had something else she wanted to say about because Jenny, you also are kind of behind the scenes. You do a lot of the showcase stuff. You do a lot of like you do so much stuff. It was hard to write what your title was for all of this. So do you hold on to all of that through all the business and meetings and things that you have to go through?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to in the sense it's all part of me and how I navigate the space. And so like it's interesting anytime I'm doing like podcast things, I'm thinking about like, okay, as a creator, this is how I interact with the games. As someone who does marketing, this is how I would think about the marketing related to this. And you know, as someone who has worked in development, and this is how I can relate to the developers on that side of thing and publishing. And so yeah, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I try to when the need arises, I can separate all of that out, but especially in a format like this, it's really nice to be able to just let it all sort of meld together, even though I know it's very confusing for most people when they're like, what do you do again?"
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Trying to explain what you do to people is one of the harder things about the job.
Yeah, well, I've been lucky enough to be able to chase, like, my interests. I've always ascribed to the fact that I like to learn a lot of different things, and I don't necessarily want to specialize too heavily in one thing, and what's been cool about the game industry is that more than other spaces, which right now it's a bit harder. I think I got in at a time when it was easier to do this. I don't think it's that easy now, but I got in at a time where if you wanted to be a generalist and learn a little bit of everything and be useful in a lot of different ways, I got in at that time. And so what was really cool is I have been able to learn just a little bit of everything. And then again, now I don't think that's the case, unfortunately, but the pendulum will swing back. And I'm sure if anyone else wants to do something similar, eventually that time will have to come because that's how history works.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, I think that this is a good place to move on from our topic of the show. Unless anybody giving me that look like, no, I wanted to cover something. Um, let's head over to games we've been playing. I'm going to jump in very quickly here and say I think everything I've been playing recently is under embargo right now. So I really don't have much to talk about. So I'm very excited for Janet and Jenny to take over this segment. What have y'all been playing?
I guess I'll start because I have the least. we'll go like bottom up in terms of amounts. Yeah, I finally finished Act 2 of Silksong. Yay, thank you for clapping unprompted. I literally went to Minmax Discord on the Silksong channel and I said I finished Act 2, please clap. And like genuinely like please. But yeah, it was great. It was great to have like finished it. I feel like this is like one of the more satisfying like credit rolls I've had, where they're like a team cherry game, and I was like, I was like, okay, yeah, slay, because it was a lot of work, a lot of time. It was like a 60 hours when I finished it. It's a challenging game, and it's also like just a really great video game. My time with Silksong has been fantastic, which again, not really news. Kind of expected. Like, they had made a very critically acclaimed game the first time. Their next game also good. That makes sense. But again, I never really played Hollow Knight. I dabbled a couple of minutes and was very quickly like lost, put off by the world. Just felt like it wasn't a me game. And I really expected Silksong to be basically the same thing. And the longer it's gone, there's been ebbs and flows, especially in the beginning. Like Act 1 definitely had a really hard challenges that I did have a moment where I'm like, I don't think I can continue playing because it felt too hard. I got past that moment, and honestly, that was probably like the hardest thing I had to do in the game at the time. Stuff like, I forgot what boss it was. It might have even been one that wasn't even low-key that hard, like the Splinter Sisters maybe even, but whatever. I pushed back past the things that were like too hard for me. I was able to run around there's an arena at the end of Act 2 that is like insanely hard. And I posted about it and everyone's like, it's so hard. It like kicked my ass for so long. I have bad news. You were like only halfway through in the clip you posted. I said, absolutely not. So I left in the game, went around, did other stuff. And I really was like finally truly rewarded for that. I don't want to like give away like kind of how it went down, but I really felt like I was finally getting like blessed by the game, because there were parts, you know, and this is kind of like the ebb and flow of like how this game experience can be different at different times for different people. There are times where like I felt like I was getting the worst, almost like RNG, but it's not RNG because I am doing it, but it's like I'm getting the worst luck. I'm like, I feel like I don't have these abilities that people have. I don't have the web, like everyone's having like an easier time, and I'm just like in the well suffering. But I kept playing it because I think it's a well-constructed game with like amazing platforming. And now like deeper into Act 2, I'm like, finally, like everything's coming up Millhouse is like the line from Simpsons I always use, where it's like my exploration is being rewarded, like the things I'm reaping what I've invested. It's paying in dividends, and that went cool. There's like 2 things at the end. First thing was harder than the second thing, so I was like, great, and I finished. And I plan to stop here for now. I do want to go and play some Act 3. Because it's more of the game and I like the game. People also said there's some really great platforming, and the platforming is my favorite part. But I'm pausing simply because of the job, which is a little bit of a rarity for me, but that also has come with trying to be more focused on finishing games I like, where I spent so much time playing this. I've neglected everything else. If you've been listening to the show, you know that every week I just pull up here and I say, more Silksong. I'm excited to have games that aren't Silksong for the sake of content. But as someone that really liked Silksong a lot, it's like, damn,
all the way down.
I kind of just want to play more, so because it's like it's rare to have a game that, like, for anybody, obviously if this isn't Silksong for you, I'm sure you have a game that you can think of where it's like you really love it, you like play it, just kind of grabs you by the wrist and is so engrossing, especially in what we just talked about, like in a field where we're playing great stuff all the time, quickly, like having all this, like all these riches. It makes it so that like games are a little bit less special than they are for like other people who don't play as many games. And like I acknowledge that. I know that about this job. So a game like this, and I had this with Claire Obscure as well, where it's like every night, it's like it's what I look for. It's like I'm looking forward to having time on the couch playing this in a way that is like just what I do. It just became such a part of my routine. And you would think, okay, we'll just play like a different game. But it just doesn't hit the same. It's like, I got to start. It feels like when you get out of a long relationship and then this is going to get dark for people that are going through breakups, but you get out of a long relationship and it's like that meme you see on TikTok that's like, I can't believe I've gone from like someone I was with for 7 years to like asking people what their favorite color is. Like, this fucking sucks. And that's kind of how I feel a little bit with like trying to move on to other games, where it feels like even the games that I'm liking, it's like, yeah, but like, I don't love you. I'm not like invested in you. I'm not married to you. You're not my person, you know, the way Silksong was. So we'll see what comes next and what kind of fills that void. I think the reality is make a list of games I want to knock out and just start demolishing them. I think that's what I'll be doing next. With some of the things that you have on your list of what you've been playing, Jenny, that are on my list as well. But yeah, like I feel like empty at the end, but later than normal. Usually I have game hangover like in a different way where it's like, oh, I don't know what to play next. This is more like good luck following that up, and I'm not really sure like how I'm going to get back in the flow of things. But yeah, great time. We'll definitely go back. I would love to beat Act 3, but I have gotten mixed reports on how hard that is to do. Some people say, hey, if you did Act 2, you could do Act 3. Some people are saying, man, I did Act 2 and Act 3, it's really pushing me to my limits. I'm not having a good time anymore. I have to peace out. So the reason I'm also stopping here, besides wanting to play more games, is it feels like it's a good pause point, considering the fact that there's a chance that that could be my experience, where like I'm okay stopping halfway through Act 3 and feeling a little like salty about that, but I don't want to feel salty about it yet. You know what I mean? It's like I want to just like remember you as I knew you, as like a fun adventure that I went on that had some challenge that I accomplished, and not a thing that's rotting on my Switch 2 saying you'll never be who you want to be. Because I already had that with Slay the Spire, where it's like I can't beat the heart, you know, and like ending on that note like did kind of suck a little bit. So I'm avoiding actual pain by doing Act 3. That's kind of why I'm not starting it. But honestly, if I did not have this job, I probably would just be like, let's do Act 3 now, because I'm really liking it. So yeah, good game. Everyone was right. And if you thought maybe it wasn't for you, it might be, because I ended up really liking it. If you like platformers, I think give it a shot, because it's basically a platformer.
Jenny, that leaves us. You are going to end the show with as many of these lovely things as you have to talk about. Please.
And if Jenny really likes some of these games, I'm going to bump them up into my like buckets. So I'm excited.
I already bought, what was it? Proximate? I bought that.
Yeah. That one takes,
in there.
it's like 2 hours or less. So Proximate, I'm still
maybe like, after November.
I'm so happy because I have gotten probably around 10 people as of like the last week just talking about Proximate, playing Proximate. And so I'm like, it's one of those games where, you know, I don't think it'll make it into like game of the year discussions, but it's a game that should not be missed from this year. So anyone listening, I definitely will take a moment to hype up Proximate because it's just that good. I have just so many games I've started and need to finish. Like Silksong, I fell off of it because I got Consume Me, and I was like playing Consume Me, and that consumed me. And so I fell off of Silksong, but I need to I'm going to aim to finish Act 2 this weekend. I'm pretty sure it's doable. I'm going to try to get it done. I still need to finish Expedition 33, but I did start Consume Me, and I'm almost done with that. I'll probably finish it tonight, and I am having an outstanding time with that game. I not too surprised. Consume Me, for folks who aren't familiar, it's kind of this like mundane, like mechanically it works more like a roguelike than anything else, with its structure. You have this calendar broken out into sort of week-long chapters where you're trying to hit different goals, often related to diet or something else happening in this young teenager's life. And if you're not successful, you can like basically run the week back and try again. And the art is wonderfully absurd. It's colorful, it's delightful, it's comical, and the story is so it hits me where it hurts in terms of this character could have been me in high, and she's also named Jenny, so it's like, damn, like, is this a play about us kind of moment? It's a teenager who is trying to get into college, trying to deal with a boyfriend, long distance, trying to deal with weight and dieting, and all of these pressures are piling on her. And the game systems do such a good job of mimicking that stress and pushing the boundaries and making things just a little bit harder every run, where you're feeling like it most accurately gamifies and makes you feel what it could feel like to be in that position. And I think this game is really especially impactful because we don't have many games that show a teenage girl's experience this accurately.
Mhm.
And I would encourage everyone to give it a try. I think, is the demo still available or did they remove it upon launch? Oh,
Yep.
they removed it upon launch. That's okay. If you need to, just watch like a bit, first 15 minutes. If you think the first 15, 20 minutes look good, honestly, I think you'll enjoy the rest of the game. Um, I have no notes. Honestly, I think this is one of my favorites of this year just because of the impact that it has and the way it has, for better or worse, blasted me back to my high school days. So that's consumed me. I guess, have any of you gotten to hop in a little bit or not quite yet?
This is still on my pile of shame, but
Yeah.
I feel like
Mhm.
it's there because I know it's good, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's a really hard one where I'm like, "Okay, I have feelings about this, and I've heard what people are talking about." People are talking
Yeah.
about it in the streets, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, oh, go ahead, Janet.
I was just gonna say this is on my pile of shame as well, and this falls into the category of the like genre passion, even though it's not like the same kind of narrative game as like what I'm
Mhm.
normally playing, but like it's in there. Been following it for like a long time. We've talked about it a lot. It's like I kind of have to play it. Because Jill, I'm on like not the other side of where you are, but I've heard both from people. I've heard people be like, I really like this game. I've heard people say I really like it, but I maybe am not as into like a certain aspect of it that they don't want to spoil, so I won't
Mhm.
vaguely spoil there's vague spoiler, you know what I mean? Like, and I've seen people say, oh, I like the idea of it, but I don't like what it feels like to play. So like I mean, I like hearing from everybody. I
Yeah.
don't care about at this point. I want to just play. You know what I mean? Like it's like I want to see where I come out for it. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be diving into it.
Yeah. I think
But
I'm
yeah.
about, and also to clarify for everyone, I think about halfway through. So I haven't finished it. I don't know what the ending is. So I may come back next week and be like, actually, the ending didn't stick for me. So it kind of impacted how I feel overall. But I think my biggest sort of criticism currently on the game is that I can see how the with the systems and the way it's structured, narratively it makes sense. You have these to-do check boxes that you have to get done, and these mini games you play to get those check boxes done. I feel like if you're really into it, you're not gonna mind, but it can maybe feel a little bit grindy, like you're gonna play the same mini games a decent amount of times. And so if you're not into the mini games, you will probably feel like, "Okay, God, I'm arranging a lunch for the millionth time. Can we just move on to the next thing? I think I get it." So that may I'm curious to see if as I finish the game tonight, if that novelty kind of wears off. But
Mhm.
I also really love putting shapes into
Oh, me
restricted
too.
box
In bet.
spaces.
Have you played in
Mhm.
Bento,
Oh my god,
Jenny?
I love Invento.
Okay,
It's
cool.
like just like that where it's like I this is actually the thing that scratches like that itch in my brain really well. And so
Yeah.
for me, the mini games are perfectly designed. Except I cannot get the hang of dog walking. So if anyone is a pro in the dog walking mini game, give me tips. I'm so bad at it. But everything else, it feels so good to play
Yeah, I'm
to
looking
me.
forward to it.
But yeah, I'm interested to see where the story goes because I'm just really curious. How do you conclude a game about some of the shittiest part of teenage years? Like what happens? Because I don't see this being like a and they lived happily ever after. Let's tie it in a bow. So I'm really curious to see just what just happens to this teen narratively. Um, so that's Consume Me. I have started 2 other games because I hate myself apparently, but I love these games. The next one I'm playing is called Quartet, and I'm only an hour in, but that first hour has been so much fun. I'm just in RPG heaven right now, I swear.
Mhm.
Between Hermit and Pig also coming out
Arm
next
and
year,
peg.
we have, like, what is it? You know the dumpster game? It's like
Town of the
Oh,
Dumps
with
or
the frying
yeah.
pan?
something.
Oh
It's
no.
Yeah, yeah,
it's like
yeah.
you're playing like a janitor dumpster. It's like Town of the Dump or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
something like
coming
Yeah,
that.
out
everything is
later this
trash.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have so many good throwback
Kingdoms of
RPGs.
Dump?
Yeah, Kingdoms of
Of the
Dump.
Dump? Of the
Yes.
Dump. Yeah,
Kingdoms of the
Kingdoms of the
Dump.
Dump.
I'm so excited for that one. And Quartet has been loosely on my radar. They had a Kickstarter a while back, but I there have been so many other good RPGs. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get to it when I get to it. Quartet released, and I have heard nothing but just really complimentary things from people who I trust who play RPGs, and I started it, and so far it's been wonderful. I think if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VI, if you're a fan of Wild Arms, it starts similar to Wild Arms actually, where you have four protagonists that you get to choose from, and you play all four of them eventually, but you choose which ones and what order you go in, so you can kind of like let your curiosity bring you into the world, which I always think is a fun way to structure the beginning of a game. And then all of their stories intertwine into one big epic adventure. The setting timing is also interesting. Maybe it'll be more clear later on, but it's a fantasy world that seems like it's in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Like my character was talking about how electricity was just coming to town, and there's like some steam engines and cars. So it's in an interesting time period. I don't feel like I see RPGs take.
Mhm.
And there's also this interesting sort of socio-political conflict that has to do with magic being this commodity that people are vying for. And so I love these mundane stories and worlds that are having these big social political conflicts. And it just looks really, really fun. And again, the first hour has been a blast. So, along with every other RPG I've started, I'm going to be continuing with
Mhm.
Quartet. And I'm sure I'll finish all of them in time
I'm sure
for end
all
of the
this
year.
weekend, you're gonna get
Yeah.
everything checked off.
Everything gets done this weekend. Exactly. And then the last one I wanted to share and talk about, especially because I feel like this one has been relatively slept on, at least from the circles I've been in, and maybe in other places it's being talked about more. But Look Outside, which is by Devolver, and I can't read that font. Who is it? Who is the developer?
Francis
Francis
Colomb.
Cologne.
Yeah.
Colomb?
Okay.
Yeah.
If y'all have not played Look Outside and you're looking for a sicko RPG survival horror game, this is it. It is so freaking good. Um,
Mhm.
you play this person who wakes up in their apartment, and you have this strange neighbor that talks to you through the wall, and they're just like, "Hey, go look outside." And of course, you're like, "Well, doesn't seem good." And the neighbor, as you start like kind of going towards it, the neighbor's like, "Wait, wait, no, don't look outside." And so you learn pretty quickly the goal and the aim is to survive something that's happening outside. It's very like eldritch horror. Something outside
Mhm.
is happening. Do not look outside. See if you can survive like the next 15 or so days in your apartment. Um, what I love is that this is an exploration survival horror crafting game. So you're walking around your complex, looking through the different rooms, seeing all of the weird creatures and sort of people who are there, and you can choose how you interact with them. So you can choose kind of like Undertale, I would guess, or similar games where you can be more aggressive and decide to just fight everything you encounter. You can try and make friends, and there are multiple endings that are impacted by the ways that you interact with your neighbors, essentially.
Yeah. I
Um,
don't like the phrase "sort of people," Jenny.
sort of people
Sort
is
of people.
an accurate phrase in this
Humanoids.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it's pixel art, it's turn-based battles, and I just have not played a horror game that's gotten me this excited in a long time. Like, honestly, Mouthwashing last year was
Mhm.
maybe the most excited I've been about a horror game, and this is my like, this and Proximate probably are my 2 horror games of the year. Um, and what I love is it's scary, but it's not first person, like, shooty McShoot 'em panic scary. It's
Okay.
you can walk around and explore. The pixel art makes it a little bit less intimidating, so I can approach it and not be totally freaked out and unable to continue forward in the adventure.
Can we make Shooty McShoot'em like a go-to like
Yeah.
way to describe
Yes.
Shooty
that kind
McShoot'em.
of gameplay?
Yes. From now on, that's all we're calling
Great.
any kind of shooting game.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are my indies.
There we go,
They're all very
everybody.
good.
And I've got a list up too of games to check out before the wave of November hits us. But it's a good time to be It's a good time to be an indie fan. So let's all just enjoy it while we can. But that's the end of this week's council. Thank you to everyone for joining us. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and the Indie Council has its own socials. Go check us out on Blue Sky at theindiecouncil.com. This session is closed. Go play some indies.